I'm Juliet Scott-Croxford, and this is the 4th episode of Women and Worth's inaugural season, Female Fortunes.
Human rights are women's rights, and women's rights
For the record,
are human rights.
Feminism, by definition, is the belief that men and women should have equal rights.
You told the world that time's up on violence. You told the world that time's up on silence.
Justice is not a concept we read about in a book. Justice is about how much ladies get paid.
They say it's a myth, but it's not a myth. It's math.
This is the best time to be a woman. I want young women to really understand that and believe it. It's not that there aren't barriers. Of course there are barriers.
We all face pivot points over the course of our careers, moments that take us off our previously determined path and into the unknown. But how do we navigate these opportunities, and more importantly, how do we identify when a pivot is necessary for progress and advancement? Jennifer Justice, or JJ, knows a thing or two about pivots.
Look, here's the thing. It's like I grew up on nothing. And money does not buy you happiness, it buys you convenience. And being inconvenienced can make you unhappy, but for a short period of time.
From humble beginnings in the Pacific Northwest to spending 17 years as personal entertainment attorney and general counsel for Jay-Z and his company Roc Nation. She then left to tackle another issue close to her heart, gender equality in the workplace. JJ is now the co-founder of the Justice Department, an organisation that helps accelerate the businesses and careers of women. She joins me today at co-working space The Wing in Brooklyn, New York. Hi, JJ.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks. You?
I'm very well, thank you. So, as the former entertainment lawyer for Jay-Z and Beyonce, along with boundary-breaking position as first female president of Superfly, few would hesitate to call your work and career a phenomenal success. But what's truly impressive is how you've got there. Tell me about your beginnings in the Pacific Northwest.
Well, they were humble, to say the least. I was the first of my family to go to college. My mother didn't even graduate from high school, and that was not rare in my family. But I just, was born with a curiosity and wanted to get out and do other things. Fortunately, I'd done really well in school, and I took that and used it to my advantage and decided that I was going to go to college, and started from there.
And so what drove you to become a music attorney?
Well, when I graduated from college, unlike, other people I had gone to college with, which it was typical for them, knew their parents had gone, etc., I didn't have that network of people to understand what was available to me. So through the Career Counseling Center, I was going to interviews for insurance sales and wine sales. And I was like, this is not why I went to college. And at the same time, the whole kind of grunge scene had exploded there. And Seattle is, the size of this place. And it, so you got to know everybody. And I was very much in that scene. I had decided, because I didn't have any other mentors, to understand what I could do. I was like, what's on TV? Doctor, lawyer, banker. And I was like, I'll be a lawyer, so when ignorance is bliss. And then, so I applied to law schools. I took the LSAT, applied to law schools, and I got accepted to Cornell with a scholarship. And right before I was leaving, all my friends threw me a going away party, which included many members of, Pearl Jam and Alice in Chains and all of those bands that were coming out of there. And they were like, you should be a music attorney. And I was like, that's what I'll do. So when ignorance is bliss. And I literally went to Cornell Law School and Ivy League school to be a music lawyer. So it's kind of funny.
That's amazing. Yeah. And so how does the mix of law and entertainment speak to you?
Well, when I first came out of law school, I became a litigator associate at Hughes Hepburn Reed. And I quickly realized, because I was extremely ambitious and I wanted to be a leader and not like somebody, I wanted to be one of the leaders. I was never getting clients as a litigator in that firm because I didn't have any connections. I didn't have, parents who lived in New York whose friends were the GCs of, major companies. I was like, how would I ever get clients? And you need those connections young. You can't make them in at 50. You're like, okay, now I'll be a partner. That's not going to happen. You need them then. And so I figured out that in music, I could get clients. Most of them are from my same background. I understood the business side of things. Most artists and musicians, that is, don't go to college. For the majority of it, they don't have that background. And I knew I had been from the same background, and I could translate that to them in a very unintimidating way. And I spoke their language. So I realized very quickly that the way I could make it is in an area of law where I could get the clients.
So I want to move to a topic that many women will and have dealt with while navigating their careers, and that is gender discrimination.
Right.
How do you think the entertainment industry is doing in this regard?
Well, the thing about the music industry in particular, I'm not speaking the rest of the entertainment, but music in particular is extremely diverse, right? There's all different kinds of music. So it represents a broad mixture of that. I mean, there's still a lot of room for improvement, but as far as women, there's still hardly any female headliners at festivals. There's still rampant sexual harassment at festivals. There's still not a lot of back-of-house women and tour managers. There, engineers, mixers, producers, songwriters, and then the executive kind of ranks. That hasn't changed or improved much at all. So it's the same kind of ratio that it always has been. So there's a massive room for improvement in that.
What do you think the biggest myth is in terms of that we're accelerating progress for women?
I mean, I think that it's accelerated. I mean, the same discrimination exists. It's just to more women. It's like, so there's more of us in the workplace. We're just all getting discriminated against at the same level.
We'll be right back. Let's take a moment to hear from Carrie Schwab Pomerantz, President of Charles Schwab Foundation and Senior Vice President of Charles Schwab, official launch partner of the Women and Worth podcast.
We live in a world of doing it ourselves. So I highly encourage women and men to learn the basics of money management. It's not rocket science, just understanding the basics of budgeting and living below your means.
So I love this line from an interview you did last year. I was known as being very tough and probably bitchy. I started wearing it as a badge of honour. If bitch means being good, then great, I'm a bitch. Tell me your thoughts behind this.
Well, I mean, you can't really fight it, right? So why not just accept it? Why not take it and make it yours? It takes the power away from it, right?
I want to talk a bit about the use of language in the workplace and how it can reinforce stereotypes and how it hinders progress and inclusivity. So how do we use language in the workplace, be it assertive versus bossy or passionate versus emotional? How does the language we use affect advancement?
Well, I think we have to call it out all the time. I mean, it was just in my last job, we were having, this executive coach give us lessons on management and stuff. And I couldn't believe it. This is a woman, by the way, who led this session, and she's well known. And one of the things was, okay, think about the last time you thought of somebody as bossy. And I was like, I'm sorry, I take great exception to this, especially sitting in a room that's all men except for 2 women in the management team. Who do you think they're going to think of as bossy? Only the women. And they were like, oh, right. I'm like, how are you doing management training using these terms? You're part of the problem and you're women, And I love that thing that Catalyst did too. It's they put up the whole, a picture of somebody and it's like what they've been called their whole life. It's like bossy, intimidating. I get all the time. I'm like, okay, intimidating is something that the beholder feels. It's like not me, right? I can't say if I'm intimidating or not. It's the person who says that I'm intimidating.
But what I love about your quote around being bitchy is that you're using it as a source of empowerment. So you're sort of saying, okay, well, let's subvert the traditional meaning and be empowered by using it.
So, those are the things that we can say as well. Like we can take those and make them ours and be like, those are a positive thing. My bossy is your, what is it? What is the equivalent of bossy in men? You're powerful, assertive, right? My emotional is your passionate, so I'm passionate too. They're the same thing. All women get called emotional all the time. I'm like, that's called passion. Steve Jobs says how he used to cry in every single, meeting. So was he emotional or was he passionate? So I think you have to turn him and take him yours at the same time, making sure you're saying those things while you're doing it.
Right. So this episode, we're focusing on a topic that you're uniquely qualified to discuss, pivots. Mm-hmm. What are your career pivots?
I mean, I've had many. I mean, the pivot to go into to school's a pivot from where I was supposed to be, which was divorced 3 times with college age kids. If not a grandmother by now, which my mother was by 4 times, I think, at this point. But I think the biggest pivot obviously being, going from Rock Nation to Superfly to then kind of doing it all myself I'm going to start the Justice Department with these 2 other women, and we're going to solely focus on the success of women.
JJ, give me a few words on the inspiration behind the Justice Department.
So I was getting approached, I'd left being a lawyer and I'd been a lawyer for a lot of women. And when they came to me, it was often because I spoke to them as a human being, not as a little girl. And I kept getting asked, who's out there that's like you? And then I was also speaking to some women who were female founders about coming in-house, like the CEO or the president. And, it's that phrase, if not you, then who? And I was like, I just got to do it. We all just got to start this, and being the business advocate solely focused on the success of women, female founders, brands, executives, talent and creatives. We need to help them help themselves become successful.
What I love about it is it has that legal backbone from your heritage, but actually it's far more than that. And you're giving advice and you're investing.
Yeah. It's business. We are all business lawyers, In the music industry, agents are a part of their career, but they book their tours, So lawyers are often the person they come to for the strategy, for structuring the business terms, and then we do the legal as well. So we've all been business attorneys, and it not like somebody else hands us business terms and we just put it down on paper. So it was always a part of our careers. And then, I left the law 9 years ago to be the EVP of Rock Nation, or somewhere around there, EVP of Rock Nation, and then I was the president at Superfly. And so, those roles were all in the business capacity. So, yeah, it's much more in a corporate development, business development, and strategy role as well.
So you've said you're a big risk taker professionally. How important is it to someone's career, particularly if that someone is a woman?
I think it is, I think this goes for everyone, but women are usually take a little bit longer to realize this. In particular, for women, if you're not getting that promotion and you've been passed over and over and over again, you're never getting it. Leave that place. And it's hard to accept, but it's just not going to happen. If there's somebody above you that is never going, male or female, is never going to let you get higher than you are, then you have to leave. There's certain places that are never going to change, and as much as they say they are, they're not going to. So you need to be prepared to make that move and that pivot yourself.
So another pivot point that you've spoken about is your decision to have children. What surprised you most about that decision?
There was a while that I didn't think I was going to, but I, had come from so far in my life that I was like, okay, you know what, I'm single, I'm by myself, I'm making good money, I live in New York, I can kind of do whatever I want. How many more bags or clothes can I buy to make me happy? Or it's not going to be more money. And then I philosophically, I'm not, or spiritually too, I'm not religious, but I was like, why did I get out? Why me of everyone in my extended family? It's my whole extended family that I have really surpassed where they have all gone educationally and, and career-wise. Why was it me? And I felt like there was something that that I needed to do more than just get rich, and pass it on. Yeah. And so I was like, I have to pass this on somehow, which I'm a little narcissistic. But I was like, I have to have kids, because there's got to be something more grounding and more purposeful.
Right. And so how did you transition your thinking around career and finances through that transition?
Look, here's the thing. It's I grew up on nothing. And money does not buy you happiness. It buys you convenience. And being inconvenienced can make you unhappy, but for a short period of time. Women have children in ditches. We can do this. And if I have to, I would figure out a way to do it. So to me, that wasn't, and doing it by myself. And I was like, I don't think I could do it by myself. And I was like, how much help do you really think you're going to get, doing it with somebody else? Ultimately, when you have them, you're the one who's breastfeeding them. You're the one they're attaching to, So That never bothered me doing it by myself. But financially, I mean, it's what motivates me every single day to keep a certain lifestyle for them, but also keeping them like that perspective of understanding what it's like, to be privileged,
JJ, as you've progressed in your career and had this sort of highly successful career, how has that fed into your resilience, and also how has that impacted your family relationships?
It's allowed me to open their eyes to things, even like in Washington State, where we all just took a family vacation in the San Juan Islands, which everybody should go to. It's beautiful. But it's like something where it's like still in the backyard. We're all able to go there. We can all recognize its beauty. And it's not so expensive that when paying for it, everybody feels bad that I'm paying for it. And because it doesn't really cost me as much as if we're going to, St. Bart's, which is one of my places of choice, you know what I mean? So it's something that everybody can enjoy. So it opens it up to stuff, but not stuff that makes them uncomfortable. Like, some people like where they live. They like what they eat. They don't care that they're eating at Masa or whatever, a sushi restaurant, or, carrying a $5,000 bag. Like, it's fine, and so it's something that we can all find in the middle.
And so we've been talking about taking advantage of pivot points, but one thing that may be more difficult is recognizing them. How do you know when you're ready to take a risk or make a big change?
When I find myself not motivated on a daily basis and like not learning, it's like, okay, I can do this in my sleep. Again, it's like I came so far that to not challenge myself, it just doesn't make any sense. It keeps me up at night. I'm concerned about stuff that doesn't matter, It's like I don't want to be sweating all the small stuff. Like I want to, keep my head above here. And it's just a total mood. I can tell. It took me a long time to realize that, but I was like, yeah, this is not working for me.
And have you noticed that it happens in cycles? So for me, like every 3 to 4 years, I kind of get an itchy thing of like, I need to shift something.
Yeah, I think, look, when you grow up in poverty, self-awareness is a complete luxury, therapy and all that stuff. You're just worried about eating and money and like getting to the next thing. It's like, that's all a luxury. And also when you grow up in like that, it's survival mode, right? So you're constantly just like trying to survive. So I didn't have that luxury to sit back and like analyze my life until well into my 30s. And then I was like, oh, okay, this is what's happening. This is a cycle. I'm comfortable. Like, I can't do this. Like, there's more out there for me. I need to push myself.
So, JJ, as we end our conversation, I want to ask, 25 years from now, what conversations will we be having about women's progress?
Oh, wasn't it funny that time when men didn't think women should get paid the same? Can you believe we let them get away with that? Yeah.
And how will we get there?
Because we all need to be very conscious of this. And women need to stick together 100% and be conscious of the fact that this is happening. And until we take an active part in it to change it, it's not going to change.
Right. And we're stronger together.
Yes.
And finally, what does worth mean to you?
It's an all-encompassing thing. It's your worth as financially, spiritually, your worth to your friends and your family, to your community. It's a broader version than what's in your bank account.
JJ, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're amazing.
You're amazing.
That was Jennifer Justice, co-founder of the Justice Department, a female-focused business accelerator. And that's it for this episode from our premiere season, Female Fortunes. Thank you for listening. Please rate and review our podcast called Women and Worth, or better yet, subscribe on your favourite listening app. Stay tuned for our next episode focusing on investment strategies for women. Until then, I'm Juliet Scott-Croxford.
This episode is supported by our official launch partner, Charles Schwab. For more investing advice, visit www.schwab.com.